So my number one film is Uncut Gems in 2019. Maybe she said Uncut Jams. Remember that meme? This is directed and co-written by the Safdie brothers, starring Adam Sandler, again, my king of anxiety,
Yeah.
Julia Fox, Kevin Garnett, and the wickedly talented Adele Gazim, which is Adina Menzel. So the plot summary of this film is: with his debts mounting and angry collectors closing in, a fast-talking New York City jeweler risks everything in the hopes of staying afloat and alive. So for me, this is around obsession with a goal and fixating and ruminating on a very specific thing that you want drives you totally crazy, which is definitely something that I have a tendency. I mean, I've said I'm not an anxious person. I don't think I am. But this is my area that I can find myself getting anxious about for sure, of like fixating on a specific, oh, I have to do the dishes. Oh, and nothing else matters. I just got to get that done. Or there's a
Yeah, I
project at
have
work
that
and I'm
too.
like, I don't care. Like, I just have to. This is the only thing I care about. It's the only thing I care about. And I definitely fall into that trap a lot of the times. And Howard, who's Adam Sandler's character in this movie, from the first scene, it's just like all he is just placing bets, making wagers, making bets, borrowing money, in debt here, but have to pay this guy back. It's all he's doing is chasing that high of not even necessarily the win. It's just like the high of the bet. Just place the bet, and
Hmm.
are you going to win or not? And I think this movie just does, again, to Sandler's performance and everything in this film does a great job just from the first frame all the way to the end. Again, I saw this, like I said at the outset, I saw this movie once. I'm like, I can never watch this again. This like tapped into these anxieties in me that I was like so uncomfortable watching this movie, but I thought it was still brilliant. I had to bring it back into this episode as my number one. And I'm glad I did see it again. I think the movie felt better the second time for me, but I'll pause there. If this is a movie you've seen before, and what was your reaction to it?
Yeah, I started it one time before, and the sound design of the movie, which is all purposeful, I just couldn't
Yeah.
take it. And I couldn't get through the entire movie, even though I, from the get-go, appreciated Adam Sandler's performance and what was
Yeah.
happening and
Yeah.
admired the filmmakers. But it was, yeah, I just couldn't watch it. But I always wanted to come back to it because I knew there was something here and this movie is so talked about and such. So I was glad
So you
to
made it
come
through.
to it again.
You got through it. Okay.
I got through it, and I'm glad I did, even though I was very trepidatious of how this is going to go. I think I was a lot more prepared for the sound design and how that's supposed to go and supposed to be. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
really helped. But yeah, I totally agree with you. That is something that I can also get fixated on. I don't think the movie, for me personally, lands the way it probably lands on you, where all those things are getting triggered more and more. I can sort of separate that out because it's
Mm.
there in me, but maybe it's to a lesser degree or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the filmmaking aspects of this movie, just the way we talked about with Requiem as well, they definitely ratchet up quite a bit. And his performance and the fast cutting and the fast
Yeah.
talking and all the background sounds, just this world, which is kind of seedy and odd, but also alluring and interesting and
Mm-hmm.
captivating. Like that in itself is a mind trick, right? As you're watching the movie, even if all the other paraphernalia were not at display, I think just this world would be very anxiety driving because it's
Yeah.
just so odd. And then you place all these characters and Adam Sandler's character, who's in this weird predicament from as sort of being shot at from all angles, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about, a pot that's just going to not like blow over but explode, and you feel that from the very get-go. So I really admired and appreciated this movie the second time. I still think I can't watch it again. And I will say, and maybe this is with more distance,
Yeah.
like this movie to me doesn't feel like a school project the
Oh, not at
way
all. This is
the other two,
like
because this feels
top-notch
like
filmmaking.
top-notch
Top-notch
filmmaking.
filmmaking. Yeah.
Even though a lot is at play, it never feels like a try hard.
No, totally agree. Yeah, but from like the first scene, he's getting calls about needing to pay someone back, which is also something that gives me anxiety too. Like, I don't like owing people money. I always want to
Yeah.
make sure I immediately pay my debts. I don't have any debt. I don't like having debt. That also gives me anxiety too. And this
Yeah.
whole movie of just watching him always be in debt and trying to triangulate, okay, this guy owes me money, so I'm going to collect it over here and bring it over here. But then I have the money, but I immediately have to place a bet. He just has to place a bet on everything, even though he's owing people money all over town and it's dragging his entire life down. But that's an addiction to him. Like that anxiety of he almost is addicted to the anxiety of that feeling, because it's not about the win necessarily. It's living in the moment of, am I going to win or not? That desire to win is just so, and for me, like very triggering for me. I think Adam Sandler, again, because for me, he's like the avatar of anxiety for me. And his performance in this is the best thing he's ever done. I mean, starting with totally Punch Drunk Love, actually, the fact that he was able to get here in terms of dramatic role is just inspiring, just as an actor, how he's able to pull this off in this film. Just incredible.
Yeah, and like I was saying with Punch Drunk Love as well, like I don't think I could watch anybody else in a movie like this with this kind of setup. It'll be even a harder watch. But there's something about Adam Sandler's groundedness and niceness, or that you develop empathy for him no matter what. And you root for him and you cringe when he makes poor choices, that if you could just calm the hell down and think about this, it might get better just a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's true, which for me, again, doesn't work much in these comedies, but do work in these roles. And I also just want to do a shout out to Kevin Garnett, who's a basketball player, plays himself in this movie.
So good.
Does a great job. And I love how his character also becomes obsessed with this opal that he thinks is giving him these powers to be winning in the Celtics playoff games, much like, again, Adam Sandler's character driven by this obsession. He also just looks into this opal and it's like, this is everything that he wants. He's willing to pay all this money for it. And all these things just, again, hits on the theme where it's not just Sandler in this movie that isn't obsessive. Like, it even, his obsessiveness like rubs off on Kevin Garnett too, who does, again, a great job as a non-actor, I think, in this movie, playing himself, but still, I think he does.
Which is even harder to do, I might argue, right?
That's true.
Yourself. So
that's true. Yeah. Oh, The Weeknd makes a fun cameo too, actually, in this movie.
Oh, right.
That I think is a bizarre cameo, but something that also is funny, I guess, speaking to his Sandler sort of feeling old too. That's another theme in this movie as well. The anxiety of feeling old. He gets that colonoscopy in the beginning of the movie and thinks he might be dying. And there's all these things hanging over his head that are driving him. It's like a ball of every anxiety you can have, I think, is in this movie and representing this character, which, he just does such a good job portraying.
Really good. On sort of the dream obsessiveness part that you've highlighted in this movie and a little bit in Requiem as well, that's also very human. And like we were talking about the question that Whiplash raises, that is this good or bad? You could argue that it's these dreams that have pushed people to accomplish way more than they might have otherwise, True. And what is sort of that line that you cross that line is very thin again, because you're like, okay, maybe just this time this might work. What if this opal actually gives me superpowers to win every game? Or what if this diamond opal rock or whatever solves all my debt problems? Like, it might actually. So I think it's interesting that what drives us and what drives us crazy.
That's true. Though I think Sandler's character in this movie, Howard, is different than Whiplash and even Requiem, all those dreams, because I feel like with him, if he did get a big bet in and win like $10 million, it's not like he would be like, okay, great, I'm done, I'm gonna go like buy a house and relax and have a good time. He would immediately play, okay, well, I'm gonna bet all this on this other stuff. Like, for him, it isn't even that destination, that dream. Whereas I do feel like
it's the bet, it's that
Whiplash,
gambling personality.
When he reaches that goal of now he's this great jazz drummer, I think that's what when he accomplishes that, I think he will not stop, but like feel satisfied in his accomplishment. And with Requiem for a Dream, if any of those characters had gotten what they wanted, like the looking nice on TV or love for his mom or a good relationship, that the drugs would fall away. They don't need it anymore. But with Sandler in this movie, he is never satiated at all. Like, there's nothing that will make him stop this obsession of always being, am I going to win or not? Like, that is like the worst kind of anxiety I think you can have, which is why I'm not a fan of, I don't gamble myself, and it's hard for me sometimes to watch other people do it because I get a little bit like, oh my God, like,
I'm
what's going to happen
for
here?
You.
Exactly. Yeah. I get anxious for you.
Yeah.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.